There was a group online that was increasingly promising to treat erectile dysfunction using an abstinence model. So often this was abstaining from masturbation. These are groups that are commonly described as semen retention groups. NOFAP is a large one. NOFAP is a bit strange because NOFAP, at least that phrase, has been around since at least 2006 online. It grew up in these bodybuilding forums where these guys thought if they abstained from masturbating, then their testosterone would go up and they would have gains. It turns out it's the opposite. If you masturbate more, testosterone goes up. So don't do that if if that's your goal. Do the opposite. And then eventually someone copyrighted NoFap. And so now there's this business around it also. And so it's always confusing as to like who's talking about what, and people get pissed off all the time about this. But these groups in general are just promising, they can cure all kinds of ills, or they can improve this or that. Sometimes they describe it as an internet challenge. Sometimes they describe it as a treatment. And they're...
This is the core of it is, or the foundation is, of not masturbating.
Not masturbating is the main thing. And so one study we did was saying like, well, anything else? Like what else are you abstaining from? How long are you supposed to abstain for these benefits? Like forever? It's 90 days, some people say. And it's not super clear, frankly. Like that was part of the point of the survey, is like, it just depends who you ask. Some are like, you have to be away from porn. You can't have sex. You can have sex, but only in these circumstances. And I was like, okay, so we're just going back to the 1940s is what's happening. You can have sex when you're married with your heterosexual partner. It's like, I see where this is going. And in the context of studying those claims that they were going to help with erectile functioning, we started to see some of these forums actually had like a very, very strange, like different conversation going on. They were very aggressive against pornographers, for example, because they see them as tempting them to masturbate. And there are a lot of violent posts online, and so we started collecting these and have a paper under review now looking at some of those issues.
What do you mean by a lot of violent posts?
So apologies, but it was like describing dismembering pornography performers because they see them as like causing them to masturbate, and that's their goal is not to. And so, they're similar and different from incels. So incel is involuntary celibate, and generally they see themselves as we want to have romantic relationships, but because of the mating market, we're unable to, and we're rejected, and that's kind of what they bond over. In the case of NoFap, they tend to be highly narcissistic, so they're like, we're amazing, we're strong, we're powerful, and we're going to overcome this bad pornography people and these bad scientists who tell us to masturbate. And so a lot of, to support those kind of beliefs, they have a lot of conspiracy beliefs. So, media is controlled by the government because they want to keep men weak through masturbation. And we're like, what is happening in this forum? But they vary a lot. Some of the semen retention is very spiritual. So people treat it more as like that kind of a practice, more like ascetic. Some of the other groups are more internet challenge, so just a funny thing where they make fun of each other and have a ton of memes, and it seems kind of harmless.
Oh, this is actually I'm actually taking a second to take everything you're saying in. It's happening from so many different angles.
Yeah.
And there isn't necessarily a clear-cut reason. There all seem to be a separate set of motivations driving this.
It's all something about promoting masculinity. It's a core to all of them, but they vary a lot as to like exactly where they came from to that. So like that was last year, the International Center for Counterterrorism just recognized NoFap as an extremist misogynist group. So I believe these are the next group to be aware of, should we say, about potentially bad acts coming out of, because there's some extremist feelings in those groups. But part of why I distinguish them is I don't think they're all like that. They all have a similar kind of like we're men, kind of approach, where they're saying the thing we're doing is making us more masculine, is going to make us better in bed, more attractive to women. But some really seem to take that as a nice thing that they do for themselves and their spiritual practice. Some is like a challenge, a funny thing to do with their friends, and some take it like a little too far, basically.
I can completely see it. I mean, the next logical step is, if you're already in that extremist group, it is, how do we band together against the rest of the world?
Yeah.
Whew. Okay. All right. So you've been studying these groups.
Yeah, and so part of what we were finding is they're telling the groups that they can help them abstain from masturbation and things related to it, like pornography, sometimes partnered sex, sometimes they ban fantasy. They're like, you're not supposed to sexually fantasize. Like, good luck with that.
Well, how did it even happen?
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine.
Yeah, they call it monk mode. So monk is like when you do nothing.
Okay.
I think it's like a play on the religious.
I know they're lying. They're all telling each other they're lying. They're lying.
So, so that's part of the question is, first of all, does it work? Because I'm a clinical scientist. That's the question is, hey, if something works, we'll check it out. And there are lots of online support groups for other health issues like drinking, people who want to cut back on their alcohol consumption, people who are managing, going through cancer treatments, and need support around the side effects they're experiencing. And those groups have been studied, and the more people are involved with them, they tend to have fewer negative symptoms, they feel better supported. We did the study with NOFA, we found the opposite. The more engaged people are, the more they post, the more they're going into that forum. Symptoms of depression are higher, symptoms of anxiety are higher, symptoms of erectile dysfunction are higher. So this group is unique. It really seems to be going the opposite direction. And now we're doing longitudinal work of scraping their forums and analyzing the posts using a semantic analysis, which is a form of natural language processing, which if it was much fancier, you might be able to call it AI, but I hate when people label everything AI, so this is not AI. So we're doing some analyses looking to see when people are posting, are they actually getting better over time? And instead, we found a few suicides in the group. So now we've stopped and we're working on a paper to say should we have caught what's happening in these groups that people are dying by suicide? Can we characterize what's going on with them? So we're still, I would say, kind of in the middle of that area of research. It's we know a fair amount about the group now, and I think there's a lot this could go towards. I'm not sure exactly what direction we'll end up in, but right now we're kind of in the middle of looking at the content of what's in the forums.